More than 1,000 people were killed in violent clashes between Syrian security forces and supporters of ousted longtime President Bashar al-Assad.
Russia's Friday night strikes on Ukraine leave at least 14 people dead and 30 people injured.
Hundreds of thousands of women marched in major capitals around the world to commemorate International Women's Day. More than 1,000 people were killed as violent clashes erupted between Syrian security forces and loyalists of ousted longtime President Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a UK-based war monitor, added that the clashes marked one of the deadliest acts of violence in over a decade. Clashes erupted between Assad supporters and forces of the new interim Syrian government on Thursday in the country's western coastal regions. Assad enjoyed the support of Alawites for decades, who were predominantly based in the coastal areas in cities like Latakia. On Friday, Sunni Muslim gunmen launched retaliatory revenge killings against members of Assad's minority Alawite sect. Hundreds were killed as gunmen reportedly opened indiscriminate fire at homes in Alawite regions, looted and set them ablaze. The incident marks a major blow to the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group, who toppled Assad in early December in a surprise rebellion. The international community has called on all parties to exercise restraint and respect the rights of all Syrians, regardless of personal and religious beliefs.
At least 14 people have been killed and as many as 30 people were injured in a fresh wave of Russian strikes on Ukraine. Local officials in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region said 11 people were killed, while authorities in the Kharkiv region said 3 people had died from the Russian drone strike overnight. The attacks came hours after the US confirmed it had limited Ukraine's access to satellite imagery.
Тільки вскочив в убіжище, сильне зарево і звук шрапнелі по дверям. Тобто я зрозумів, що попало конкретно в нас.
Ukrainian authorities released video footage showing flames engulfing a multi-story building in Dobryya following the Russian strikes overnight. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks, saying such strikes show that Russia's goals are unchanged.
Hundreds of thousands of women rallied in cities across the globe to commemorate International Women's Day. In the European capital, Brussels, thousands marched to warn against what organizers of the rally called a worrying regression in women's rights. Protesters argued that the rise of the right wing in Europe threatens to impede on and limit women's freedoms in areas like abortion. In Rome, protesters demanded an end to gender-based violence. Demonstrators danced, held banners and placards as they marched through the Italian capital city center. They also waved bunches of keys in their hands to highlight the fact that much of the violence against women takes place within the home. Protesters also took to the streets of the Greek capital, Athens, where activists demanded an end to discrimination and pay inequality. They also carried a large Palestinian flag and called for the protection of Palestinian women's rights, who've been enduring the hardships of war in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas.
The leaders of the center-right and center-left parties in Germany say formal coalition talks will begin next week after preliminary exploratory talks ended on Saturday. Friedrich Merz, leader of the CDU, reiterated his goals of curbing irregular migration, while the head of the Social Democratic Party told reporters that he hopes the parties will reach a consensus on Monday.
Kurz nach der Bundestagswahl mit CDU, CSU und SPD trotz sehr unterschiedlicher Grundsätze, Standpunkte, Meinung und auch unterschiedlicher Charaktere, wenn wir es schaffen, uns in so fundamentalen, wichtigen Fragen der deutschen, nationalen, europäischen und internationalen Politik zu einigen, wenn wir es schaffen, gemeinsam Brücken zu bauen, dann kann das auch anderswo in diesem Land gelingen.
In Germany, where coalitions are the norm, governments are typically formed in 2 phases, with parties first holding exploratory talks and then entering into formal coalition talks.